Hello, I just finished watching Suzume for the first time. I woke up this morning and just wanted a comfort watch, so I chose something about death and trauma and natural disasters. I didn't know what it was about going in. I just saw a pretty doorway and I listened to one of the songs because it showed up randomly when I was listening to the playlist for Your Name, and I decided it was time to watch the movie. It was so good. Suzume is my third movie by this director, and just like the others, it is one of the most visually stunning pieces of work I've seen. I sincerely believe that all of these movies, in and of their own right, are a piece of art. Putting the storytelling aside, just visually, they're worth your time. And while Weathering with You wasn't my favorite movie, I was kind of more middle of the road on it. I did do a live stream with my friend Amber Elise on that one, as well as a dedicated video and live stream for Your Name. And now this is getting a dedicated video as well. And Amber Elise and I might do a live stream for this one as well. But I literally just finished the movie 30 minutes ago, and I just wanted to sit down and talk to you about it because from the beginning to the end, it was such a stunning piece of work, both in art and in story. I'm really amazed at how Suzume tells a story that you can follow, but that you don't fully understand the individual components of, like the flashes of memory that she has of her as a little girl with her mom. We don't know what happened to her mom, where these memories come from, why they're still plaguing her in her dreams. We don't know why these doorways are opening or why this worm spirit creature is coming into the world and causing these earthquakes. We don't understand what, I think it was the keeper of the doors, what exactly his role is or how he played a part in it. We don't know all the details, and as the story goes along, we get little pieces filled in for us. Things start connecting, but it's not until the very end, it's not until the final scene that it all really comes together and you realize how incredible of a story it truly is, how much meaning it holds, and how we never could have fully understood it until we got that final puzzle piece. But before we get to the end, I want to talk about the journey, because what Makoto Shinkai did, the director of these movies, did was create a journey to the end that I loved every step of, even the bizarre, strange things like turning someone who clearly is probably going to become the love interest in this particular film into a chair, and then he still accompanies her along the way and instructs her, and they develop a bond as a chair. Like, that's a weird thing you did. But the symbolism of it being the thing that she's holding on to, the piece of her past that she hasn't healed from, her mother who she lost, being the chair, and then he actually becomes bonded with that chair or superimposed into it, shares a space with that chair, holds a lot of meaning as well, alongside the earthquakes that are happening that they're trying to close the doors on, are all things that hold a lot of trauma and loss. They're places that people had memories in, that people once loved and interacted with, but because of a natural disaster had to leave behind, and now the ruins are what's left, and that's what the earthquakes are coming out of. There's so many little things like that all throughout the story where the themes of the story are tied into the imagery that we see. And all the visuals around all these things are so colorful and beautiful, just like all of these movies are, but they're also very emotional in their own right. There were times when I was watching this movie and I was tearing up and I didn't even fully understand why. I didn't really understand the meaning behind the scene at the time, but I was still feeling emotional while watching the scene. So I'm watching her experience these different doors, some that are just, you know, the initial door that's just standing in a pool of water, or the doorway on a Ferris wheel, and watching them fight this disaster, fight this beast, this spiritual being, to close the door and seal it to protect the people. It visually it was stunning, but also just had so much wrapped up in it that we don't even fully understand until the end. And along the way, Suzume meets different people, they take her in, they care for her, and through that we get to not only expand the world, see all that this world has to offer, but we also, through these people, connect to the ruins that these doors have opened, and along the way we get to be introduced to the things that were lost through them. And I absolutely loved the twist that when she lifted the seal from the first doorway and it turned into a cat, and then it was following her around, and at first the cat says, "You're in the way. Go away." And then Sota turns into a chair. The cat seems villainous, and as it's continuing to lead them to the different doorways, it appears that the cat is opening the doorways, that the cat is looking to cause disaster. It keeps saying these abstract things like, "I can't become the seal again. You're the seal now. I want to be with Suzume. It's just her and me. Go away." And it seems malicious, but actually the whole time it was trying to help them. It was trying to lead them to the doorways that needed closed. It was trying to warn them that if they don't close the doors, then, well, let's see. Okay. It was, if you don't close the doors, then the world will end. Lots of people will die. History will repeat itself, which sounds really ominous when you don't realize what this cat is warning them of. And the twist that the cat was actually trying to help them the entire time, was trying to lead them to the doorways so that they could close them, that in fact it was working with them the whole way along and accepted that it needed to become the seal again instead of be Suzume's pet, it seems like it should be predictable, but I didn't see it coming and I loved it. Even when the second seal was introduced to the story as another cat and inhabited her aunt's body, and the two fought, it also seemed pretty evil at first, but they both worked together to protect humanity. I also loved the element when she used Sota as the keyhole to seal, or to stop the worm when the whole world was about to be destroyed, when history was about to repeat itself. And she had that memory of her mom making that chair for her for the first time, and how special it was for her, that her mom even carved the face into the chair. And she said, "I will keep it forever. I'll never forget." And then she wakes up and says in her adult voice, "How long did it take me to forget that promise?" Kind of ties into the theme of things that were precious to us that we then lost and now hold on to. Naturally, she did actually fall in love with the chair, and she went and visited Sota's granddad in the hospital and tried to understand how to get to him, because he disappeared into the ever after. He is now gone forever, and this is where we learn that the reason that she can see the world as they see it, despite not being a doorkeeper, is because when she was a little girl, she got lost in one of these doors and she ended up in the ever after, at least for a time. So the only way to get back to Sota is to go find that door again, pass through it again, and save him. That's also when we learned that Suzume was 4 when her mom passed and she couldn't process it, so she went looking for her and got lost, and that was when she found the door. So now, her mom. So now we have Suzume, her aunt, and Sota's friend all on this vast road trip trying to get to the place of her childhood, the place where all of these memories, all of this trauma happened. I loved so much about this movie. I thought that the score was incredible. I mean, the score is what got me to watch the movie. The score is what made me sit down and watch it today, is by stumbling on one of Suzume's songs a little bit ago and just not really being able to get it out of my head, and listening to the Your Name soundtrack, and just the score is what drew me in to wanting to see this movie, along with seeing the other movies. And it didn't disappoint. There were so many different types of songs playing throughout this movie that created different vibes and that really contributed to how emotional this story ended up being for me. But as I said, visually, and just as a story of a girl trying to protect the world, trying to stop these doorways from being opened and from humanity having to suffer another earthquake, this is, in and of its own right, an extraordinary story, but it was the end that completely won me over and made it almost as good as Your Name. They get back to what was once her house, but her house is gone now. She opens the gate and she digs up this old box that she buried so long ago with her old journal as a little 4-year-old. And she flips through the pages and comes across these pages of black that we had seen before this in little flashbacks. This black represents that loss that she experienced at that age. And after I finished this movie, I did just a quick search on it and learned that at the top of the black pages is the date written 3/11, and that's in reference to the date 3/11/2011, which is when a massive earthquake hit Tokyo and a lot of people died. I cried all through the ending of the movie and then called my friend after the movie and cried on her, but when I read that date, I cried all over again. Because when I read that date, I realized that Suzume lost her mom in an earthquake. And this whole movie, she's been chasing doorways, trying to stop further earthquakes, trying to stop history from repeating itself so that other little kids wouldn't lose their moms as well. She didn't want the world to end again like it did for her when she was a little girl. That's what Daji, what was the cat's name? That's what the cat was warning her of when it said, if the worm falls, the earth will end, lots of people will die, history will repeat itself. Because when the worm fell the last time, when the last earthquake happened, the world ended from her perspective. And she was trying to stop it from ending again. If Suzume hadn't gone back and saved Sota, then I don't know that she would have actually been able to see her past self again, and then her past self wouldn't have seen Sota, and therefore, when Suzume first sees Sota at the beginning of the movie, recognize him and have this innate connection to him that led her to the doorway in the first place, that led her on this mission throughout the journey of this movie. It was the ending that created the beginning, which is very common for these movies, I realize, but I love Makoto's use of time. At the end of this movie, we see a traumatized kid that lost her mom in a devastating earthquake, trying to close doors to protect the world from experiencing what she went through. But also at the end, she finds the door that she slipped through as a child, opening that door to the little child in her that's still searching for her mom, still crying. And Suzume is the one that saves her. All this time she thought it was her mom, but it was herself. She was the one that brought comfort to her inner child that was still lost. And she finally got to close her own door so that she could start to heal. I think the story did a lot of things. It talked about natural disasters, which is a theme in his stories. It talked about trauma and loss and finding healing for that piece of you that is still kind of wandering and lost. But I also think that the doors that Suzume was hunting down and trying to close were a direct parallel to the trauma that she had experienced and the door that she really needed to find ultimately in order to start her healing. And I really love that while Sota was a huge component in this story and a beautiful one, I didn't really talk about it in this, but I thought that their love story, despite it being, he was a chair most of the time, was beautiful. And the story couldn't have happened without Sota, but I love that Suzume in the end saved herself. Suzume in the end was the only one that could have brought healing and comfort to that little girl. That the visions that she saw from the beginning of herself and seemingly her mom were herself and her of tomorrow. Oh, there's probably so much more that I could say about this movie, but I, again, just finished it, so these are my initial thoughts after finishing it. I loved this movie. I loved it. Your Name is still my number one. I think it's going to be hard to beat, but I loved this movie almost as much as Your Name. Weathering with You was solid, but not great for me. I'm so glad I watched Suzume because this is everything that I love about Makoto's films. There's just something really, really special about these movies, and I think I have at least one left to watch, which I'm really happy about. Anyway, it was the perfect comfort watch for me. Despite its very heavy themes, it was perfect. I would love to hear your thoughts if you have seen it, if you want to discuss it more with me, if you want to discuss parts of the movie that I really didn't touch on. There's plenty there. Please do chat with me more in the comments. I'll see you again soon. Bye.